303, page 304, page 305. Senator Aleko Mustafa, move for adoption of the votes and proceedings.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Aleko Mustafa from Ukun East. I stand to move for the adoption of the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 29th October 2019. So moved.
Distinguished Senator Arobinos.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to support the motion that the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 29th October be adopted. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, the 29th of October 2019 be approved, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 29th October 2019 is hereby approved. Birthday wish. It was Senator Taslim Folarin's birthday on the 30th of October. Distinguished former leader of the Senate, on behalf of the Senate, we wish you very happy birthday, long life, prosperity, and many more years of service to our fatherland. Congratulations. Also, the 5th of November was the birthday of Senator Yusuf Abubakar Yusuf. The Senate wishes our colleague a very happy birthday, long life, prosperity, and many more years of service to our fatherland. I wish to acknowledge the presence of members of Law Students Association, Faculty of Law, University of Benin, Edo State, who are here in the gallery to observe our proceedings of today. I wish you a very fruitful observation of the Senate proceedings, and you are welcome. You may sit down, please. I also wish to acknowledge the presence of staff and students of Napo International Schools, Maitama, Abuja. The students are also here in the gallery to observe the Senate proceedings of today. You are welcome. I wish you a very fruitful observation of our proceedings. You may sit down. Petitions. Well, before we start the business of the day, point of order, Senator Oluremi Tinubu.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I'm Oluremi Tinubu, representing Lagos Central Senatorial District. I stand on the order 42 and 52. Shall I read, sir?
Go ahead, Ari.
By the matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied with the matter, that the matter is definite and urgent. And 52, Notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion or in respect of any other proceeding for which notice is required, except the consent of the President of the Senate and the general assent of the senators present. So,
what is the matter?
I'm bringing to the notice of this distinguished Senate, try to notify them of the death of an eminent son of Lagos in the person of Brigadier General Mobolaji Johnson, the first military administrator and pioneer governor of Lagos State, who died 3 days ago.
You know, because you have come under orders 42 and 52, of course, in addition to my consent, we need the buy-in of at least 1/5 of senators who are here. So I will put the question. Those in favor that we take the motion, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Please go ahead. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, Brigadier General Mobolaji Olufunsho Johnson was born on the 9th day of February 1938 to Joshua Motola Johnson and Emma Gbemisola Johnson Nikoka. He attended Reagan Memorial Baptist School, Yaba Methodist School, Osi College Warri and Methodist Boys High School, Lagos, where he completed his secondary education. From there, he joined the Nigerian Army and trained at the military depot in Zaria, emerging as the best all-round recruit. In 1959, he commenced his career as a cadet in the Nigerian Army. He was posted to the 5th Battalion of the Nigerian Army and served in the UN operations in the Congo. He also served in the Federal Guards in Lagos, 2nd Brigade headquarters, and as station manager of the troops in the then Midwestern Nigeria, amongst others. At age 31, he was appointed as military administrator for Lagos State. Sequel to the creation of 12 states, he was appointed Governor General of Lagos State. An embodiment of service to the people, he worked with seasoned administrators to establish the first 5 government colleges and a housing estate which was commissioned within his first year in office. His administration is remembered for projects like the Eco Bridge, Lagos-Badagry Expressway, linking Nigeria to neighboring Benin Republic, Ghana, and Togo. In addition, he embarked on the reclamation of the Nigerian Bar Beach shoreline, amongst many other enduring legacies. Brigadier General Mobolaji Johnson is without doubt one of the founding fathers of modern Lagos State, having laid the foundation for the infrastructural development of the state. In a country that is deficient of distinguished role models for the youth, he was indeed a shining example. His public service career embodies uprightness, forthrightness, financial probity, and incorruptibility. At the end of his term as governor, General Muritala Mohammed showcased Brigadier Mobolaji Johnson alongside Brigadier General Oluwole Rotimi as the only 2 governors found not guilty of the allegations of corruption levied against military governors of their era. And indeed, worthy son of Lagos State, he retired with full honors in 1975. He went to serve as chairman of the Nigerian Conservation Fund, NCF, director and subsequently chairman of Julius Baja Nigerian Limited. Brigadier General Mobolaji Johnson breathed his last at 4:15 p.m. on Wednesday, 30th October 2019. This is indeed a monumental loss to Lagos State and Nigeria as a whole. Senate accordingly Resolve 1, to observe 1 minute silence in honor of Brigadier General Mobolaji Johnson. 2, send a delegation to commiserate with the bereaved family. And I know Senator Adiola Solomon is not here. He happens to live in his senatorial district, and I crave his indulgence to bring the motion forward because of our relationship with the deceased, and also that my husband also served as governor of Lagos State at the time. And we shared very wonderful and fond memories of the deceased. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, my distinguished colleagues.
Senator Ibikule Amosu.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ibikule Amosu, I represent Ogun Central. Let me second this motion to honor the departed General Mobolaji Johnson, and let me thank in a special way the mover of this motion. Let me say that General Johnson was who you can refer to as an officer and a gentleman. He served at a very tender age, now that we say not too young to run. Even at that tender age of 31, when he was made the Governor General of Lagos State, you could see all his good works, such that even 50 years after, we are still talking and referring to those works. Beyond all of those, something striking happened to me when I was governor in Ogun State. That's about 2 or 3 years ago. He came with Baba Akitola Williams. I was just told that they want to commission an old people's home. And I was told that both himself and Baba Akitola Williams, that they are already in the venue, not very far from to Abeokuta. So I had to leave and just go to see what they were doing there. Lo and behold, I got there and I saw that both of them and some others, they've contributed to build that old people's home. And at their old age, particularly himself and Baba Akitola Williams, I even queried that why should you be coming to do things like this at this your very old age? Because of course physically you could see that they have some challenge to be there. And he told me that if they do not do this, he doesn't want to see people of his age suffering. And that is why they decide that they must have a home that people that cannot afford it, when they are that old, that they should be comfortable. And that is what they were doing, going around. And immediately I heard that we lost him. I have to go, as so many other people have, to go and commiserate with the family and sign the condolence register. And something happened. I was told that he died on his very birthday. What a way to go. So I think it is not just about Lagos State alone. This is somebody that the legacies that he left behind can be replicated, can be copied among these, what we call these young governors. So during their time, it was just selfless service. And let me... We are. Some of us are, in fact, most of us are now following suit and following on their footsteps and doing those wonderful things that they did. But I would want to round up by saying that the Senate should join in commending and thanking God for his life. And we should honor people like this so that it will serve as a good example that when you are alive, when you are doing good things, you will not be forgotten and you will always be remembered. So on that note, I want to join in saying that we should give him a minute silence and send that powerful delegation to go and commiserate with the family. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, will go to the prayers. The Senate accordingly resolves to observe 1 minute silence in honor of Brigadier General Mobolaji Johnson. Those in favor of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, send a delegation to commiserate with the bereaved family. Those in favor of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. 1 minute silence. May the gentle soul of Brigadier General Mobolaji Johnson rest in perfect peace. Amen. Point of order, distinguished Senator Muhammad Adamu Bulkachwa.
Thank you, Mr. President. Stand on order 42. Which reads, Order 42, which reads, Mr. President, my name is Senator Adamu Muhammad Bukachua, representing Bauchi North. And I stand on Order 42, the matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting. And President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. If the claim, that's section 2 of it, if the claim is allowed by the President of the Senate and the leave of the Senate is given by at least 1/5 all the senators, the matter shall stand over until next legislative day. Can I?
I'm not sure if that is all you want to do. I think you have to combine 42 with 52 to enable us to take it today. Otherwise, it will have to wait until tomorrow, if that is what you want.
Notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion in respect of any other proceedings for which notice is required, except with the consent of the President of the Senate and the general assent of the senators present. I so move, Mr. President.
You have my consent, but I think we have to seek the endorsement of at least 1/5 of the senators present. So I'll put the question. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You may proceed, please.
I am moving a motion in respect of the demise of the wife of the late Prime Minister Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, known as Hajia Jummai Tafawa Balewa. And she was the last surviving wife of the late Prime Minister. He received the shocking news of the demise of one illustrious indigene of Bauchi State, who had contributed immensely to the development of both the state and the Federation at large. Hajia Jummai Tafawa Balewa. Note that Hajia Jummai was last surviving wife of the late Prime Minister Al-Haji Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa. She was born on 20th of May 1929 to the royal family of Bauchi. Also note that Hajia Jummai was a devout Muslim and philanthropist who dedicated her life to the service of humanity and practical assistance to the weak and the less privileged. That earned her the nickname of Hajia Maimarayu, meaning the mother of orphans. further notes that Hajia Jummai had been a bridge between different generations, which made her a champion in promoting peace, love, and understanding. Hajia died at the ripe age of 90 years on the 27th of October, 2019 in Lagos, shortly after returning from medical checkup from India. The Senate also received the Senate observed, that's the prayer one, Mr. President. Prayer one, the Senate observes 1 minute silence in honor of the deceased. 2, send a delegation of the Senate to condole the government of Bauchi State and the Emirate Council of Bauchi. Number 3, and the families of the deceased. And number 3, Mr. President, urge the federal and state government to immortalize Hajia Jummai. Urge Hajia Jummai with either naming a street or some school or something in her honor. I so move, Mr. President.
Senator Haliru Dauda Jika.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, Haliru Dauda Jika, representing Bauchi Central, I rise humbly to second as motion moved by Senator Adamu Mohamed bin Kachua. I so second, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, let's go to the prayers. The Senate resolves to observe a minute silence in honor of the deceased. Those in favor of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2. Send a delegation of the Senate to condole the government of Bauchi State, the Emirate Councils of Bauchi and Katagum, and also their families. Those in favor of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3. Urge the federal and state government to immortalize them. When you say them, is it not one person? 2.
Mr. President asked me to step down one of them.
So the prayer is reading them. That's why I'm saying. So who do we immortalize?
Hajia Jummai for now, because the other one will come later. Yes, I just.
Okay. I urge the federal and state government to immortalize her. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 4, urge the Nigeria Police to rename the Nigeria Police Training School after late DIG. No. This prayer is relevant to this because you presented only
Mr. President, when I approached Mr. President with this prayer, I had prepared it for both DIG Ramadami and Hajia Jummai Balewa. But on the advice of the President, I could only move for one of them for the time being. That is why.
Okay, I advise that you take only one and then you take the other one tomorrow. I didn't know everything was put in one. This and so that prayer 4 is not part of this. So distinguished colleagues, let me join Senators Mohamed Adam Bilkachua and Ali Jika both from Bauchi, to commiserate with families of the deceased, and also to pray that the Almighty God will give them the fortitude to bear the loss. One minute silence, please. May the soul of the deceased rest in perfect peace. Amen. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Aliu Magatakazanwamako on the Pension Reforms Act Amendment Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Pension Reform Act Amendment Bill 2019, SB 41, first reading.
Pension Reform Act Amendment Bill 2019, SB 41, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my distinguished and highly respected colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Abdullahi Adamu on the National Agricultural Development Fund Establishment, etc. Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Agricultural Development Fund Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 119, first reading.
National Agricultural Development Fund Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 119, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Tolu Akeremi Odebi on the Chartered Institute of Administration and Registrars of Nigerian Universities Establishment, etc. Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Chartered Institute of Administration and Registrars of Nigerian Universities Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 124, first reading.
Chartered Institute of Administration and Registrars of Nigeria Universities Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 124, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Benjamin Wajumugu on the Occupational Safety and Health Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Occupational Safety and Health Bill 2019, SB 126, first reading.
Occupational Safety and Health Bill 2019, SB 126, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Kashim Shettima on the Mental Health Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Mental Health Bill 2019, SB 129, first reading.
Mental Health Bill 2019, SB 129, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, The sixth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Mohammed Sani Musa on the Protection of Internet Falsehood and Manipulations Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Protection from Internet Falsehood and Manipulations Bill 2019, SB 132, first reading.
Protection from Internet Falsehood and Manipulations Bill 2019, SB 132, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the seventh business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Albert Basi Akpan on the Petroleum Production and Distribution Anti-Sabotage Act, CAP P12, Laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 2004 Amendment Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Petroleum Production and Distribution Anti-Sabotage Act, CAP P12, LFN 2004, Amendment Bill 2019, SB 133, first reading.
Petroleum Production and Distribution Anti-Sabotage Act, CAP P12, LFN 2004, Amendment Bill 2019, SB 133, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the eighth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Alhaji Ibrahim Gaidam on the National Cohesion and Integration Commission Establishment, etc. Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Cohesion and Integration Commission Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 137, first reading.
National Cohesion and Integration Commission Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 137, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the ninth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Joseph Obina Ogba on the Federal University of Sports Establishment, etc. Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal University of Sports Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 138, first reading.
Federal University of Sports Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 138, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the 10th business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Barrow Jibril on the Microbiology Council of Nigeria Establishment, etc. Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Microbiology Council of Nigeria Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 139, first reading.
Microbiology Council of Nigeria Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 139, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the 11th business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in my name on the Finance Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Finance Bill 2019, SB 140, first reading.
Finance Bill 2019, SB 140, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Niger Delta on the screening of the following persons for appointment as chairmen and members of the Board of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC. Number 1, Dr. Pius Odubu Edo, Chairman. Number 2, Bernard O. Okumakba, Delta, Managing Director. Number 3, Engineer Otobong Ndem, Akwa Ibom, Executive Director Projects. Number 4, Maxwell Oko, Bayelsa, Executive Director Finance and Administration. Number 5, Prophet Jones Erue, Delta State Representative. Number 6, Chief Victor Efato, Edo State Representative. Number 7, Dr. Joye Yemibe Nunye, Rivers State Representative. Number 8, Nwogu N. Nwogu, Abia State Representative. Number 9, Theodore A. Alice, Bayelsa State Representative. Number 10, Victor Antai, Akwa Ibom State Representative. Number 11, Maurice Efiwat, Cross River State Representative. Number 12, Olubenga Edema, Ondo State Representative. Number 13, Honorable Uchegbu Chide Bere Kirian, Imo State Representative. Number 14, Aisha Murtala Mohammed, Kano, Northwestern States Representative. Number 15, Shuaibu Arba Zubairu, Adamawa, Northeastern States Representative. Number 16, Ambassador Abdullahi M. Bagi, Nasarawa, North Central States Representative. Distinguished senators will recall that the request from Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief, was referred to the committee on Tuesday, 29th April 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Peter Nwoboshi, Chairman of the Committee of Niger Delta, to move the motion for the...
Distinguished Senator Peter Nwoboshi.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Peter Nwoboshi, representing Delta North. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Niger Delta on the confirmation of the appointment of the nominees mentioned by the Senate leader as chairman and members of the Board of Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, in accordance with Section 2.2 of the NDDC Act 2000. I so move.
Any seconder? Yeah, distinguished Senator Clifford Hajia.
Mr. President, my very distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Clifford Hajia, representing Edo Central Senatorial District. I rise to second the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Niger Delta on the confirmation of appointment of the following nominees as chairman and members of the Board of Niger Delta Ministry. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Please present the report here. You can present the report.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, you will recall that the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, at its sitting on Tuesday, 29th October 2019, considered the request of Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for the confirmation of the nomination of the chairman and members of the Governing Board of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, I refer same to the Committee on Niger Delta for further legislative action. The committee requested for the credentials, including the necessary security confirmation for all the nominees and resolved to conduct an open screening on Thursday, 31st October 2019. The committee also resolved to be guided during the screening by the following modalities: that the necessary documents for each nominee be secured before the commencement of the screening, that the screening should be held in the open. Distinguished colleagues, all the nominees that presented themselves were screened and their credentials are contained here in the report. With the permission of Mr. President, I can go to the findings, Mr. President.
Yes, please.
Through the screening exercise conducted on the nominees, the committee finds that the educational qualification and the vast experience of the nominees will impact positively on the development of Niger Delta Development Region. The committee considers nominees qualified to serve on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission and recommended the following nominees for the confirmation of the Senate. 1, Dr. Pius Odubu as chairman of the governing board of Niger Delta Development Commission. 2, Mr. Bernard O. Okumagba as managing director of Niger Delta Development Commission. 3, Engineer Odbong Endem as executive director of projects of the Niger Delta Development Commission. 4, Maxwell Oko as executive director Finance Administration of the Niger Delta Development Commission. 5, Prophet Jones Irue as member representing Delta State on the governing board of Niger Delta Development Commission. 6, Chief Victor Ehiato as member representing Edo State on the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC. 7, Nwogu N. Nwogu as member representing Abia State on the Niger Delta Development Commission Board. 8, Theodora A. Allison as member representing Bayelsa State on Niger Delta Development Commission. 9, Victor Ani as member representing Akwa Ibom on the Niger Delta Development Commission. 10, Maurice Ifad as member representing Cross River State in Niger Development Commission. 11, Olubenga Edema as member representing Edo State on the Niger Delta Development Commission. 12, Honorable Uchebu Chidiebere Kiyam as member representing Imo State of the Niger Development Commission. 13, Aisha Motla Mohammed as member representing Northwest Zone on the Niger Delta Development Commission. 14, Shuaibu Zubaru as member representing Northeast Zone on the Niger Delta Development Commission. And finally, Ambassador Abdullahi M. Bagi as member representing the North Central Zone on the Niger Delta Development Commission. Dr. Yembe Nguyen, member representing River State on the NDDC board, was absent and could not be screened. Her nomination is therefore not recommended for confirmation. The prayer that the Senate do consider the report of the committee and approve this recommendation. I so move.
Okay, before I ask for any comments, let me ask you a question. The last person nominee, Dr. Joy Imebe Nunye, that was absent. Was there any correspondence as to her absence?
Your Excellency, first, on Thursday, when the committee met in the open, she was not present, and we asked the Special Assistant to the President in charge of Senate, that's the liaison officer to the Senate, and he said he communicated to her and that he was expecting that she will come. Then Then we now said the committee resolved that herself and Aisha Mohammed, who were not there on the Thursday, should be screened yesterday. Yesterday, Aisha Mohammed came with the special assistant to Mr. President, the Zomofra, our distinguished Senator Babajide Omaware, and we asked him again, where is the nominee for Rivers State? And he said, no communication from her.
Did you write her to appear before
Yes,
you?
Mr. Yes,
okay,
yes.
okay. All right. Any comments? The minority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just some clarifications that I want to get from the chairman. This member representing Rivers State appears to be the same person that was sworn in as chairman of the interim committee of NDDC. Oh, is that, I don't know whether it's chairman, managing director, which brings us to some type of little, not, what I will say, I'm looking for the right word so that it will not, if it,
You can skip it.
but let us say that this little bit of confusion is not really necessary. But I can say this, Mr. President. What we have in front of us is the nominees from Mr. President. We do the needful to the issue for Mr. President and return to the presidency in due course. And then we will leave the matter as it is. If the executive want to play basketball with the matter of NDDC, that will be their own business. I do not think that after asking the question whether the nominee was invited and that nothing has come from the nominee, the proper thing to do is to not to confirm the nominee as due. I so submit.
Senator Ike, okay.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, first an observation. I record I signed this report because it has my support, but I can see from the document before me that my signature disappeared. Just for the record, anyway, maybe I signed after the photocopy was made. Second is to say that I was at the screening, and I can confirm that nominees are eminently qualified. The last point we made here, Mr. President, is the fact that some of us are aware, I'm sure are aware too, that there is an interim management committee in place, and we'll not be encouraging that kind of sabotage or undermining the powers of the National Assembly. We made a law here and stating that there will be a board for the NDDC, and anything outside that, for me, amounts to sabotage. And these nominees are supposed to be sent to the National Assembly. This is one of the few acts of the National Assembly that requires the approval of the Senate and the House of Representatives. I think the other approval is the one that relates to the service chiefs. Outside these two, it's usually the Senate that approves nominations from President where it is required. So that tells you the importance of the approval of the National Assembly in NDDC boards. So for any person to begin to set up interim management board, I believe that it is something that should not be acceptable to the National Assembly. So the earlier we approve of these nominees and send to the President, the better for all of us so that they can get to work, and then the issue of the interim management will be set aside. And I would like to use the opportunity to appeal that henceforth we must be able to abide by the laws we made for ourselves as a country. I'm not trying to sabotage any arm of government. Thank you.
Senator Albert Akpan.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished and respected colleagues, Senator Albert Bassi Akpan, Akwa Ibom Northeast. Mr. President, my colleagues, let me first of all express the profound gratitude of our Akwa Ibom people to Mr. President for the nomination of the true eminent son, Akwa Ibom's son, Otto Bongandem as ED projects, and Victor Antai as the Commissioner representing Akwa Ibom in NDDC. Mr. President, I believe very strongly that there is no ambiguity in this process. I believe that once this screening process is completed by the Senate, the President will do the needful. We are only supporting the President to realize his vision for the people of Niger Delta. For Mr. President, speaking as the true son of Niger Delta, I believe that a time has come where we must begin to hold any NDDC accountable. And the only way this can be achieved, Mr. President, in line with the Act of NDDC, is that now that we have an executive management committee and we have a board, then we believe that as a people, we can hold them accountable. This does not stop the President's objective of ordering an audit, because the audit has nothing to do with this new sets of managers. We believe that this set of managers will be the right anchor to process and then see through the audit for the benefit of Niger Delta people. Mr. President, I urge each and every one of us to please support this process so that the President can go ahead and do the needful by inaugurating the substantive committee for NDDC. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Distinguished colleagues, I think there is no ambiguity in this matter. Mr. President sent to the Senate his request for us to confirm his nominees. As soon as we conclude on this process, the confirmation, I'm sure that any other structure that exists now is vitiated. So I don't think we have anything to worry about, because this is one thing that is very clearly established by the law. And I want to urge our Committee on Niger Delta Development Commission that after this management takes over the management of the NDDC, we need to do proper oversight. This goes to all other committees, but Niger Delta is a special case. We recall that the President had cause to ask for a total probe of what happened with the finances of the NDDC. This, I think, is not an indictment of us, but I think we are supposed to worry, because we are supposed to continuously oversight wherever public funds are put for the development of our people. So, NDDC committee, you have a lot of work to do. You must make sure that whatever is budgeted is properly, prudently, effectively, and efficiently put to use. And I believe that in the next few days, we'll communicate to Mr. President the result of our confirmation. Thank you. Senate Leader, Committee of the Whole.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move the motion for the Senate to resolve to the Committee of the Whole to consider the report. I so move.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against saying the ayes have it.
sad note that I read a letter from one of our very esteemed colleagues, Honorable Yusuf Ayo Tajuddin, who we all know as TJ, who unfortunately lost his beloved wife. Notification of death of my dear wife. It is with a heavy heart, yet with total submission to the will of the Almighty God, that I write to inform you of the passing of my dearly beloved wife, Mrs. Titilola Ayo Yusuf Ni Agbola, which occurred on 2nd of November 2019. She was aged 48 years. The service of songs in her honor takes place on Tuesday, 5th of November 2019 at Golden Bird Event Center.
Well, we'll do the approval now. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Dr. Pius Odubu as chairman of the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Bernard O. Okumagba as managing director of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Engineer Otobon Ndem as the executive director of projects of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Maxwell Oko as the executive director of finance and administration of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Prophet Jones Eroe as member representing Delta State on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Chief Victor Ehato as member representing Edo State on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Umogu N. Uwogu as member representing Abia State on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Theodore A. Allison as member representing Delta State on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Victor Antai as member representing Akwa Ibom State on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Maurice Efuat as member representing Cross River State on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Olobenga Edema as member representing Ondo State on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Honorable Uchegbu Chidebere Kirian as member representing Imo State on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Aisha Murtala Muhammad as member representing the Northwest Zone on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Shaibu Ardo Zubairu as member representing the Northeast Zone on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Ambassador Abdullahi M. Bagi as member representing the North Central Zone on the Governing Board of the Niger Delta Development Commission. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Before I put the last question, let me say that it's supposed to be negative, the one that has not been recommended. So it will be nay. I'm not a unit. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Dr. Joy Imebi Nunia, member representing River State on the Governing Board of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The nays have it. Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, I move that the President move to plenary in order to report progress. I so move.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second that the President reports to plenary.
Those in favor that the chair reports progress say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Any member who has a matter of urgent public importance present the House of Representatives. Oh, you have a petition? You didn't get an Honorable Sada. Go ahead.
Let me ask the leader. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate and the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee on Niger Delta on the screening of Mr. President's nominees for appointment as the Governing Board of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, and approved the nominations as follows. Dr. Pius Odubu, Edo State Chairman. Bernard O. Okumagba, Delta State Managing Director. Engineer Otobo Ndem, Akwa Ibom State Executive Director Projects. Maxwell Oko, Bayelsa State Executive Director Finance and Administration. Prophet Jones Eroe, Delta State Delta Representative. Chief Victor Ekato, Edo State Edo Representative. Nwogu M. Nwogu, Abia State, Abia Representative. Theodi A. Alison, Bayelsa State, Bayelsa Representative. Victor Antai, Akwa Ibom State, Akwa Ibom Representative. Maurice F. Watt, Cross River State, Cross River Representative. Olubenga Edema, Ondo State, Ondo Representative. Honorable Ochukbu Chidebere, Imo State, Imo Representative. Aisha Murtala Muhammad, Kano State, Northwest Representative. Shaib Ardo Zubairu, Adamawa State, Northeast Representative. Ambassador Abdullahi M. Bage, Nasarawa State, North Central Representative, as the Governing Board of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC. And the Senate did not approve the nomination of Dr. Joy Imebi Nunia, member representing River State. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Go to confirmation. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Dr. Pius Odubu as chairman of the Governing Board of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Dr. Pius Odubu as chairman of the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission is hereby confirmed as chairman of the Niger Delta Development Commission. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Bernard O. Okumagba as managing director of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Bernard O. Okumagba as managing director of the Niger Delta Development Commission is hereby confirmed. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Engineer Otobang Indem as the Executive Director of Projects of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The nomination of Engineer Otobang Indem as Executive Director Projects of the Niger Delta Development Commission is hereby confirmed. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Maxwell Oko as the Executive Director of Finance and Administration of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Maxwell Oko as the Executive Director, Finance and Administration of the Niger Delta Development Commission is hereby confirmed. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Prophet Jones Eroe as member representing Delta State on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Prophet Jones Eroe as member representing Delta State on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission is hereby confirmed. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Chief Victor Ekato as member representing Edo State on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Chief Victor Ekato as member representing Edo State on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission is hereby confirmed. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Nwogu N. Nwogu as member representing Abia State on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Nwogu N. Nwogu as member representing Abia State on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission is hereby confirmed. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Theodore A. Allison as member representing Bayelsa State on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Theodore Allison as member representing Bayelsa State on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission is hereby confirmed. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Victor Antai as member representing Akwa Ibom State on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Victor Antai as member representing Akwa Ibom State on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission is hereby confirmed. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Maurice Efiwat as member representing Cross River State on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Maurice Efiwat as member representing Cross River State on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission is hereby confirmed. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Olubenga Edema as member representing Ondo State on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Vic Olubenga Edema as member representing Ondo State on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission is hereby confirmed. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Ichagbu C. Kirian as member representing Imo State on the governing board of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Uchegbu Kirian, C. Kirian as member representing Imo State on the Governing Board of the Niger Delta Development Commission is hereby confirmed. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Aisha Murtala Mohammed as member representing the Northwest Zone on the Governing Board of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Aisha Murtala Mohammed as member representing the Northwest Zone is on the Governing Board of the Niger Delta Development Commission is hereby confirmed. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Shuaib Ardo Zubairu as member representing the Northeast Zone on the Governing Board of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Shuaib Ardo Zubairu as member representing the Northeast Zone on the Governing Board of the Niger Delta Development Commission is hereby confirmed. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Ambassador Abdullah M. Bagi as member representing the North Central Zone on the Governing Board of the Niger Delta Development Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Ambassador Abdullah M. Bagi as member representing the North Central Zone on the Governing Board of the Niger Delta Development Commission is hereby confirmed. Distinguished colleagues, let me thank you for this very expeditious manner that we were able to screen the nominees and of course confirm. But special gratitude goes to the committee, our committee on Niger Delta, that was able to stay alert to ensure that the screening exercise was conducted in a very transparent and open manner, and that we are able to today confirm the nominees of Mr. President. What we pray for is for these nominees that are entrusted with management of the NDDC to keep the trust, to discharge the responsibilities bestowed on them by the NDDC Act, to ensure that the people of Niger Delta get value for money, that all development projects are projects that will change the lives of the people for the better. As I said at the beginning, we have to do our oversight. We must ensure that every kobo counts. We must ensure value for money. Unfortunately, the NDDC has established some kind of undesirable reputation, and that is why the President had to set up the call for the probe of what has happened in the past. I think going forward, we must ensure that we remain alert as a legislature, because it is our responsibility to ensure that public funds are properly put to use. While we wish this very good team the best in their endeavor, that they stay committed to the ideals for which the NDDC was set up in the first place. Thank you very much. Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues. The second order of the day is the presentation and consideration Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the screening of Justice J.T. Soho for appointment as the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court. Distinguished senators will recall that the request of Mr. President Commander-in-Chief will refer to this committee on Tuesday, 29 October 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Bamidele Opeyemi, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Distinguished Senator Bamidele Michael Opeyemi.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Michael Opeyemi Bamidele, representing Ekiti Central Senatorial District. Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, I move Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters Committee on the confirmation of the nomination of Honorable Justice J.T. Soho as the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court. Mr. President, I so move.
Very distinguished Senator Basiru Surajuddin Ajibola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Dr. Surajuddin Ajibola Bashiru, representing the good people of also Central Senatorial District. I stand to second the motion moved by Senator Bamidele Okoyemi, Chairman, Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Judiciary on the screening of Honorable Justice John Teremba Soho for appointment as the Honorable Chief Judge of the Federal High Court. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You may lay the report, please. You can present the report.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, you will please recall that the Senate at its plenary sitting on Tuesday, 29 October 2019, considered the request of Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for the confirmation of nomination of Honorable Justice John T. Soho for appointment as the Honorable Chief Judge of the Federal High Court. This appointment became necessary, distinguished colleagues, as a result of the retirement of Honorable Justice Adamu Abdul Kafarati after attaining the mandatory retirement age of 65 years, as provided by Section 291, subsection 2 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. In compliance with this requirement, the erstwhile Chief Judge retired on 25th July 2019, thus making the position of Chief Judge of the Court vacant. After consideration of Mr. President's request, the Senate referred it to the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters by order of referral dated 29 October 2019 for further legislative action and to report back with its recommendation. Mr. President, for the avoidance of doubt, the appointment of Honorable Justice Soho was made pursuant to Section 250 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, which provides as follows. The appointment of a person to the office of the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court shall be made by the President on the recommendation of the National Judicial Council, subject to confirmation of such appointment by the Senate. It is on the strength of this provision that the appointment of the nominee was forwarded to the Senate. It should also be stated that Honorable Justice Soho is the most senior judge on the bench of the Federal High Court. He was recommended in order of seniority and preference by the Federal Judicial Service Commission to the National Judicial Council for appointment as the Honorable Chief Judge of the Federal High Court. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, copies of our reports have been circulated. Let me emphasize that two other distinguished members of the committee who could not sign before photocopies were made have signed this morning, and they signed the original copy which had been laid before Parliament. Senator Ike Ikuremadu and distinguished Senator Abdullahi Adamu. That's in addition to the other signatures you have on the photocopy. Mr. President, if I have your permission, I would like to go to our recommendation and findings. Mr. President, the committee, after this screening exercise, deliberated on the nominees' suitability for their appointment and hereby make the following observations and findings. 1, that the appointment of the nominees satisfied the requirement of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 and the Senate Standing Order 2015 as amended. 2, that Honorable Justice Soho has a wide range of experience, comportment, exposure, and possesses the requisite leadership qualities of a judicial officer to effectively run a court of such spread and complexity as the Federal High Court, and can exercise restraint and uphold the dignity of the court and the litigants in the discharge of his official functions. 3, that there is no petition against the nomination for appointment of the nominee as the Honorable Chief Judge of the Federal High Court. And 4, that he was appointed as the acting Chief Judge of the Federal High Court on 26 July 2019, a position he held until his appointment by Mr. President as the substantive Chief Judge. Finally, that the nominee is a fit and proper person for appointment as the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court. Our recommendation, Mr. President, is that the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, having screened the nominee and being satisfied about his exposure, experience, performance, qualifications, and competence, hereby recommends that the Senate do confirm the nomination of Honorable Justice J.T. Soho for appointment as the Honorable Chief Judge of the Federal High Court. I so move.
Senator Gabriel Suso.
Mr. President, I am Senator Gabriel Suso, representing Benue Northeast in the Senate. Mr. President, I'm a member of this committee. I'm standing here to give credence to the report. I'm standing here, Mr. President, to give credence to the report as presented by our able chairman. And Mr. President, just urge honorable colleague that the nominee in question happens to come from my senatorial constituency. And as he said, here is a man, character-wise, is a man that is more suitable to occupy that position. Integrity-wise, Mr. President, is a man of unimpeachable integrity. And so, as the chairman has heavily presented, I urge my colleagues to support the confirmation of this consummate gentleman who will give justice to the common people of this country. Mr. President, I so submit.
Senator Emmanuel Okejeff.
Thank you, Mr. President. Okejeff. I represent Benue Northwest from Benue State. I agree entirely with what my chairman has said. Just for the record, Mr. President, I think this is a typo, but just so we are not accused of murdering the name of Justice, the learned Justice, the spelling is not correct. I just wish on the distance so that the Secretary will take care of it. Otherwise, everything that has been said about this man is correctly put. Thank you.
Okay, Secretary, take note. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected distinguished colleagues, I rise to move the motion for the Senate to resolve in the Committee of the Whole to reconsider this report. I so move.
Thank
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to second the motion ably moved by the leader.
Those in favor of the Senate resolution to committee of the whole to consider the report say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Justice John Taimba Soho for appointment as the Honorable Chief Judge of the Federal High Court? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President. My highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move the motion for the Senate to reconvene in plenary to report progress. I so move.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate and the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the screening of Mr. President's nominee for appointment as the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court and approved the nomination of Honorable Justice John Taimba Soho as the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Confirmation. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Honorable Justice John Taimba Soho for appointment as the Honorable Chief Judge of the Federal High Court? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The confirmation of Honorable Justice John Taimba Soho is hereby approved. Let me congratulate the nominee, and we are wishing him the best of tenure. The judiciary in Nigeria is supposed to be a very active one. We need to also have better capacity for the judiciary. They have so many cases to handle and they are overwhelmed. I think this National Assembly should work together with the executive to create a better working environment and, of course, create a situation where they will have more hands so that they are able to deal with numerous cases that we always go to the judiciary for. But at the moment, I think they are overworked, they are overwhelmed, and they need our support. Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President. My highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the screening of Justice Benedict Bakwa Kanye for appointment as the President of the National Industrial Court of Nigeria. Distinguished colleagues, we recall that the request from Mr. President Commander-in-Chief was referred to the committee on Tuesday, 29th October 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Opeyemi Bamidele, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Senator Opeyemi Bamidele.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Michael Opeyemi Bamidele. I represent Ekiti Central Senatorial District. Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, I move that
the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the confirmation of the nomination of Justice Benedict Bakwap Kanye for appointment as President of the National Industrial Court of Nigeria. I so move.
Senator Okejef.
Thank you once again, Mr. President. Okejef, I represent the good people of Benue Northwest. I rise to second the motion assembly moved by the chairman of Judiciary, Legal Matters, and
those in favor that the Senate do receive and consider the report say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Please, you may lay the report.
Honorable members, the first business of the day is presentation of 20 bills. I now invite the clerk to read their short title.
You may present the report now.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, you will recall that the Senate at its plenary sitting on Tuesday, 29th October 2019, considered the request of Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for the confirmation of nomination of Honorable Justice Benedict Bakwap Kanye for appointment as the Honorable President of the National Industrial Court of Nigeria. This appointment became necessary as a result of the retirement of Honorable Justice B.A. Adejumon, OFR, after attaining the mandatory retirement age of 65 years, as provided by Section 291, subsection 2 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. In compliance with this requirement, the erstwhile Chief Judge retired on 1st October 2019, thus making the position of Chief Judge of the court vacant. After consideration of Mr. President's request, the Senate, in its wisdom, referred it to the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters by order of referral dated Tuesday, 29th October 2019, for further legislative action and to report back with its recommendation. Distinguished colleagues, for the avoidance of doubt, the appointment of Honorable Justice Benedict Kanye was made pursuant to Section 254B, sub 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. It provides as follows. The appointment of a person to the office of President of the National Industrial Court shall be made by the President on the recommendation of the National Judicial Council, subject to confirmation of such appointment by the Senate. It is on this premise that the appointment of the nominee was forwarded to the Senate. It should also be noted that Honorable Justice Kanye is the most senior judge on the bench of the National Industrial Court. He was recommended in order of seniority and preference by the Federal Judicial Service Commission to the National Judicial Council for appointment as the Honorable President of the National Industrial Court. Mr. President, with your permission, since copies of the report have been shared, I just would like to go to our findings and recommendations. The committee, after the screening exercise, deliberated on the nominee's suitability for the appointment and hereby make the following observations and findings. 1, that the appointment of the nominee satisfies the requirements of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as well as the Senate Standing Orders 2015 as amended. 2, that Honorable Justice Kain is an eminent jurist, a renowned professor of law, and a consummate academician whose numerous scholarly publications have contributed immensely to the development of law. 3, the nominee possesses the requisite leadership qualities of a high judicial officer with the capacity to exercise restraint and uphold the dignity of the court and the litigants in the discharge of his official functions. 4, that there is no petition against the nomination for appointment of the nominee as the Honorable President of the National Industrial Court. 5, that he was appointed as the acting President of the National Industrial Court on the 2nd day of October 2019, a position he held on his appointment by Mr. President as the substantive President of the Court. And 6, that the nominee is a fit and proper person for appointment as the Honorable President of the National Industrial Court of Nigeria. Our recommendation: the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, having screened the nominee and being satisfied about his exposure, experience, performance, qualifications, and competence, hereby recommends that the Senate do confirm the nomination of Honorable Justice Benedict Bakwap Kanyib for appointment as the Honorable President of the National Industrial Court of Nigeria. Mr. President, I so move.
Any comments? Senator Bashiru Yajibola.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished senators of the Federal Republic, I'm Dr. Surajuddin Ajibola Bashiru. I represent Osun Central Senatorial District. I participated at the screening as a member of the committee, but I must say that the nominee is a person that is known to me in my professional capacity, both as an academic and a legal practitioner. I believe seriously that it will be an asset for such a specialized court as the National Industrial Court, which require knowledge not only of the law, but economics, industrial relations, employment, and sociology. So I will enjoy our colleague to adopt the report of the committee and confirm the screening of the eminent jurist who is an academic and a scholar. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Senator Danjuma.
Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. I am Senator Danjuma from Kaduna South. The nominee is from my senatorial district. Just as he has been described in this recommendation by the committee, he's a fine gentleman and he has been doing very, very well. I stand to second all the recommendations made by the committee, and I pray that my colleagues will give this gentleman the chance to serve this country as he has been recommended. Thank you.
Leader of the Senate.
I rise to move a motion for the Senate to resolve in the Committee of the Whole to consider the report. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, will the Senate approve the nomination of Honorable Justice Benedict Bakwap Kanyib for appointment as the Honorable President of the National Industrial Court? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move a motion for the Senate to resolve to plenary in order to report progress.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the screening of Mr. President's nominee for appointment as the President of the National Industrial Court of Nigeria and approved the nomination of Honorable Justice Benedict Bakwab Kanyip as the President of the National Industrial Court of Nigeria. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Confirmation. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Honorable Justice Benedict Bakwab Kanyip for appointment as the Honorable President of the National Industrial Court? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Honorable Justice Benedict Bakwab Kanyip for appointment as the Honorable President of the National Industrial Court is hereby confirmed. Just like the previous situation of additional resources for our judiciary in the country, we have the same thing, but we believe that we can do better than we have in the past. We should look for some more resources to ensure that our judicial system is properly oiled and function. With this brief remark, I want to congratulate Honorable Justice Benedict Bakwab Kanyip on this very important confirmation, and we wish him the best of luck throughout his tenure. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move the motion for the Senate to step down consideration of all other items on the agenda on our agenda to another legislative day in order to give our committees time to make their own reports and submissions to the Committee on Appropriations. I so move.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, having worked so hard today, I second the motion by the leader that we go and complete the budget process.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that we stand down the consideration of the remaining items on the order paper till another legislative day say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, I rise to move the motion for the Senate to adjourn to Tuesday, tomorrow, Wednesday, 6th